So in the recent de-interlining video, I talked about Central Park West and how the 59th Street junction is worse than DeKalb in terms of throughput. Now I want to go further south and talk about de-interlining the IND Fulton Street line, and how de-interlining works when you have one pair of tunnels that serves 4 branches. So let's talk about the IND Fulton Street line. After the Cranberry tubes, the only pair of tunnels to serve Fulton, the C branches off from the A to serve the local stations. The A continues on, and at Rockaway Boulevard, the A itself separates into 2 branches, one to Lefferts and one to the Rockaways. The one to Lefferts doesn't branch, and ends 3 stations later, but the one to the Rockaways branches again at Hamels Y, with one heading to Far Rockaway, and the other heading to Rockaway Park. In total, that is 4 branches for one pair of tracks to handle, which means in the outer boroughs, you can be waiting up to 16 minutes for a train. What makes it even worse is that the A and C combined runs at about 20 trains per hour because of how interlined the system is, meaning that the Cranberry tubes, the core section of Fulton, isn't being used to their full capacity. Even though CBTC work is being done, you might get an extra 4 trains per hour, but that is nowhere close to its maximum capacity. Before I get comments about a new tunnel connecting to the IND Fulton Street line, or demolishing the Liberty Avenue L and replacing it with an extended Pitkin Avenue subway, I am just going to state the obvious. A new tunnel to the IND Fulton Street line would definitely be ideal, but I don't see any advocacy work done for that new tunnel. Nor is the MTA even entertaining ideas for a new tunnel into the IND Fulton Street line. The entire point of de-interlining is to work within the current system, to get as much capacity as possible, not to build brand new subway lines. While a new tunnel to the IND Fulton Street line is something I definitely support, completely demolishing the Liberty Avenue L and replacing it with an extended Pitkin is something I don't. This is because it would be extremely expensive and would serve less riders than Liberty Avenue would. What I mean is that this is the area around Pitkin. Between Euclid and Cross Bay Boulevard, it is somewhat okay. But after Cross Bay Boulevard, you are tunneling through Aqueduct, which is just rows of parking lots. Basically, you deleted an L that serves dense neighborhoods and replaced it with a subway that doesn't serve anyone. That's a real good use of resources, am I right? Now, let's go back to Fulton. As I mentioned before, the ANC runs at 20 trains per hour through Cranberry, the only tunnel serving all of those branches. But if you de-interline and use the Van Schnookenragen and Ude Schultz plan and have the E plus the K, the 2 routes serving the QBL Express serve Fulton instead and end the ANC at World Trade Center, then you can get 36 trains per hour through Cranberry. This is because QBL, 8th Avenue, and Cranberry are all currently getting CBTC. And with CBTC, you can get 36 trains per hour on IND lines. If you're wondering why I booted the ANC off Fulton, it is because of QBL. In order to get the most capacity, reverse branching on QBL would need to end. This means that 8th Avenue services would get one set of tracks, and 6th Avenue services would get the other set of tracks. World Trade Center on 8th Avenue can only handle 24 trains per hour, which means that you are cutting capacity to QBL if you want the E and K to end there. Or you can have a reverse branch and have the E and F run via 53rd, but once the F branches from the E at 5th Avenue 53rd Street, you cut capacity to 8th Avenue, a place where you need to have the most capacity, because it is in the city center. So to preserve that 36 trains per hour, and to end reverse branching, I routed the E and K to Brooklyn and ended the A and C at World Trade Center. Also, to simplify operations, the A and C would continue to run local on Central Park West, because they will have short routes, and the B and D would have longer routes that would greatly benefit from long express runs. Although the ANC running at only 24 trains per hour looks bad on paper, that is still a near 100% increase in capacity to Central Park West's local tracks, as currently the local track runs 13 trains per hour. Fulton riders won't be affected. The ENK still serves 8th Avenue, which is what the ANC serves today. Since almost all riders are heading into Midtown, the ENK heading to QBL after 50th Street is fine. Although the ENK doesn't go to Inwood, that doesn't matter, because very few people are taking the A from the Rockaways or Brooklyn to Inwood or Concourse. And if any rider wants Inwood service, there is a reverse cross-platform transfer to the B at 7th Avenue that makes express stops. Before I see any sparring in the comments going on, I need to make this clear. Stop obsessing over the designation of a train and start caring about what the train will do. Just because I have the B on Central Park West does not mean that it will be local. It would be express to Inwood. I literally said that in the video on 59th Street. Which, if you haven't watched that already, please go watch it. Now, with the ENK running on IND Fulton, this means that we are able to boost capacity on all 4 branches. Let's start with the first branch, the local branching off from the express after Cranberry. Currently, the C runs at 5 trains per hour, but under this plan, the K is proposed to run 12 trains per hour on the IND Fulton Street line's local tracks. This is because the K runs to Jamaica Center in Queens under this plan, which limits capacity to 12 trains per hour. On paper, that looks bad, but since you're boosting capacity by over 100% to a train every 5 minutes in Brooklyn, it is fine. With 12 trains per hour gone, the rest of the 24 trains per hour would be given to the E. That is already better than today's capacity on Cranberry, the core section of Fulton. The E would run express to Euclid, and then we have 3 branches: Lefferts, Far Rockaway, and Rockaway Park. There are a few options to consider. The first is 8 trains per hour for each of the 3 branches. This is a bit better service than what the A serves today, as the A serves around 6 to 7 trains per hour on both Far Rockaway and Lefferts Boulevard. But the biggest winner would be riders along Rockaway Park, who now get better frequencies in a direct Manhattan train all day. But I feel like 8 trains per hour is too low, and that is what the second option solves. The second option is to have the K merge back with the E to serve the Lefferts branch, with the E running to the Rockaways. But for that to happen, you might need to CBTC Liberty Avenue. But that is not the main issue. Adding an additional merge after Euclid is. This additional merge might delete the 36 trains per hour we established at Cranberry. But with maybe 10 trains per hour on Lefferts, Far Rockaway, and Rockaway Park, would that be worth it? It's your choice. The third option is to adjust the frequencies so that the Lefferts and Far Rockaway branches get more than Rockaway Park, which has a substantially lower ridership. Something like 9 trains per hour for both Lefferts and Far Rockaway, while Rockaway Park gets 6 trains per hour. It would still be a service boost either way, because now Rockaway Park residents will have a direct Manhattan train, and don't have to wait 16 minutes for an inconsistent shuttle. But would train operators approve of a train line getting 3 branches? I don't really know, so maybe designate the E trips to Rockaway Park as the H. But wait, what about Queenslink? Alright, let's break my rule in the beginning and factor it in, because at least there is momentum to get it built. With a de-interline QBL, Queenslink can funnel 12 trains per hour to the Rockaways, meaning that the E doesn't need to take over the Rockaway Park branch. That translates to the E delivering 12 trains per hour to both Lefferts and 12 trains per hour to Far Rockaway. But before you smear me as a hypocrite for supporting interlining here, let me explain a few things. First off, by interlining, you can get an extra 10 to 16 trains per hour on the local tracks of QBL. That's because of CBTC and how bad Forest Hills is as a terminal. This means no stations along QBL will see a decrease in service, and stations west of 63rd Drive would see an increase of 50%. Second, by using a de-interlined QBL, this bit of interlining would be better managed. Finally, the Rockaways doesn't need crazy capacity, as 12 trains per hour from QBL to the Rockaways is more than enough. This would further make it easier to time. And before I get any comments about sending something on Queenslink that is not in the 13th letter in the alphabet, let me set the record straight. The question right now isn't what train to run down the Rockaway Beach branch, but whether trains would run on the Rockaway Beach branch ever again. And so far, the question is being answered as a no. No trains would ever run down the Rockaway Beach branch because of a politically connected minoritarian group known as the Queensway. Let me remind everyone that when Queensway gets built, no trains will ever run down the Rockaway Beach branch ever again. And they are extremely close to doing so. But something that I didn't know in the Queenslink v Queensway video is that Queensway doesn't really have a firm timeline yet, as the city is currently conducting an environmental review for it. So what I want everyone to do here is to search who represents you in government and write a nice letter or email about how much Queens needs to reactivate the Rockaway Beach branch. And for extra credit, volunteer for the Queenslink. That would go a much longer way than arguing with people online about an otherwise petty detail about Queenslink. And before I get comments that say I am evading the alternative proposals because they are good and I have nothing to say, let me pour cold water on some of these proposals that I keep getting. And I really don't want to do it. But I feel like these proposals are being floated without accurate information. So I am here to end it once and for all. The first one is move the alignment after Forest Hills. To that I answer, you are jacking up the price of Queenslink. The entire point of Queenslink is that it is a quick, cheap project by using the existing right-of-way known as the Rockaway Beach branch. Without that existing right-of-way, there is no way to justify Queenslink, as we're talking about costs that can go up $5, $6, $7 billion, and would throw the cost per rider estimates off track. Van Stuckenragen, the chief design officer of Queenslink, said that if this project involved building substantial new right-of-ways, then this project would be extremely hard to justify. Speaking of harder to justify, for the Queenslink to make sense, building it near Woodhaven Boulevard is a must, as that is the place where the most commercial buildings and people are. But by building it after 71st Avenue, yeah, you're just hitting up less dense housing. To be fair, you can just say, oh, just reduce the cost. And I definitely want that. But time is the essence here, as Queensway is currently winning. Advocacy is extremely hard and time consuming, and by the time you get your reduced costs, it might be too late. And also, the mergers would be much better to time because, we aren't using a heavily interlined system anymore. You will still get that capacity increase by branching because of CBTC and Forest Hills. The second proposal that I keep getting is to add an additional tunnel to Queens. Great, but now you just jacked up the price again. The entire point of Queenslink is that it is a shovel-ready project. But by adding a new tunnel into the mix, you forego that option. People already don't like the fact that it costs $3 billion. So what makes you think that people are willing to pay more? It is very easy to think about new proposals. But when you ask people to pay for it, people become more apprehensive. Also, this new tunnel can be done later, when demand grows. Like this entire interline mess can be fixed at a later date. What is more important is to convert the Rockaway Beach branch back to subway service. Like, what is better for you? An interline Queenslink that can be de-interlined later, or no Queenslink at all? I'm sure any reasonable person would choose Queenslink over nothing. Again, I don't like the 59th Street Junction and Central Park West, and I absolutely want to de-interline that. But do you know what is worse than the 59th Street Junction and Central Park West, no Central Park West, and no 59th Street Junction at all. The third proposal that I keep getting is to end Queenslink at Roosevelt Avenue. Again, that is not a good idea. By making Rockaway riders transfer here, you are jamming more riders onto the chaos known as the Roosevelt Avenue complex. And you know, it isn't like the Roosevelt Avenue complex is overcrowded and a horrible place to transfer, and is slated to have another train line, the IBX, to connect to it. That is why Queenslink is advocating for the conversion of Woodhaven Boulevard into an express station. Finally, the entire point of Queenslink is a faster one-seat ride to Manhattan, so have fun foregoing that option. I think that is enough about Queenslink. So let's get back on track. The master plan without Queenslink is to have the E and K run via Cranberry, with the A and C terminating at World Trade Center. The K takes over service on Fulton Local with 12 trains per hour, while the E takes over Fulton Express with 24 trains per hour. The E also takes over the Lefferts branch with 9 trains per hour. The Far Rockaway branch also gets 9 trains per hour, and the Rockaway Park branch gets 6 trains per hour. The reason why I lean towards this option is because Far Rockaway and Lefferts Boulevard see a higher ridership than Rockaway Park, so they should get more capacity. All this shows that even without a new tunnel to the Fulton Street line and without Queenslink, capacity can still be massively increased. For example, riders along the local station of IND Fulton, which are the majority of people that use that line, will see over doubled service to their stations. Express stations will also see a massive increase in service, to a train every 2.5 minutes. Rockaway Park riders will see a more frequent train that heads to Manhattan instead of Broad Channel, while Lefferts and Far Rockaway riders can see up to a 30 to 40% increase in service. This is how powerful de-interlining can be, and paired with CBTC can create somewhat reasonable frequencies on heavily branched lines. But as the outer boroughs grow, especially Queens, the ultimate solution is to build more infrastructure. And when Queenslink gets built, we would have a service revision. The K will still have 12 trains per hour, but now the Lefferts and Far Rockaway branches will also have 12 trains per hour. A 33% increase in capacity from the original de-interlining plan. The new Queenslink will take over the Rockaway Park branch from the E with 12 trains per hour, or a 100% increase in capacity. This shows the power of Queenslink and de-interlining. And even without a new tunnel to Fulton, frequencies would be improved to reasonable standards. Anyway, this marks the end of this video. I hope that this video gets you to revisit your de-interlining plans, and again, if you're feeling salty and want to roast me in the comments, come with the facts and roast me for what I said. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.